What is, what was, and what will be start here with the words, in the beginning there was...
Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Bearded Game Masters. As always, I'm your host, Ron, and I'm joined today with Mike.
We're still alive, folks.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that little hiatus there. I kind of left the state for a little bit on vacation, came back and had some family stuff and real life things going on here.
And I didn't have a car for 3 weeks.
Yeah, so we ran into a couple little difficulties there. So we're still alive. We're still doing attempting to do episodes here.
Yes.
So just bear with us while we get back into the groove here. But we do have some news here. At least, I think it's news. I think it's some cool info here. So I guess let's start off with probably one of the cooler things to happen. So THQ Nordic has become like my hero because they're just buying up all of the IPs that I just love, and I'm hoping to God. They go through and they're giving things a reboot like they did with, re-releasing and pushing out new games for, IPs that I enjoy, such as, Darksiders.
Yep.
But just in case, if you don't know what I'm alluding to here, I guess I'd go with like a little bit of a fan favorite. I don't think it really blew anyone out of the water when it first came out, and then it was afterwards. But anyway, I'm kind of feeling a little off topic here. Kingdoms of Amalur. Amalur, yeah. Now this was, just in case anyone who doesn't actually know what this is, this was a PS3 game that came out towards the middle end of the PS3 life cycle.
Yeah.
Now there's a whole story which I'm pretty confident we don't have enough time to get into.
It involves the state of Rhode Island too.
Yeah, it was pet project of this company, and some, Rhode Island got involved on it because they tried to help, and all sorts of craziness happened. And I think when it actually came out, like it did pretty well, but I don't believe it did as well as what they needed it to.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately the company the company ended up going underwater, and then it just kind of like floated, and no one really knew what was going to happen because there was a big lawsuit and everything. And then, fast forward to, years in the future, and THQ Nordic, bought it. Right. Oh. They purchased the rights to this. So now everybody's sitting here going like, fingers crossed and everything, like going, are you gonna make a new one? Like, are you gonna re-release this on, new on PS4 and Xbox One and maybe the Switch, cause like that'd be a really good idea. So, a basic rundown on this, because you've played more of this, Mike, than I actually have. So you want to give just this like a very brief synopsis on what this is?
Look, if anybody's interested in how to do proper world building for a fantasy setting, you look into this game, because like half the production time was spent basically building the history of the world first, and then creating the story. Kind of like what Tolkien did with his Lord of the Rings trilogy. He made the world first, then wrote a story in it. And it definitely was, it's your basic trope, you got to kill the bad thing. All right. Yeah. And the big bad, and the big bad's all the way on the other side of the world. And the game was just absolutely fantastic. It was very beautiful. Even though I'm not much of a fan of third-person gameplay, I did enjoy this game. My favorite weapons in that game was the chakras. That was just fun to play with those weapons. Yeah. but to be, all the different races and just the size of the world, and clearly the world was designed as an MMO in mind. The dungeons are huge, the towns are huge. It's meant to hold people, and I think it was meant to be an MMO. Before nixing it and just making it a single player game, which I think in the end was the right idea, because when they went belly up, if this was an MMO, it would have been dead in the water completely. But at least we still have a game. It's also on PC, by the way. We have a game that is great. Is it on the level of like what was
like an Elder Scrolls or anything like that?
You know what? I think it was even more in depth than Elder Scrolls. The thing is, like, if you compared it to like Skyrim's graphics at the time, I think Skyrim probably would have had the better graphics. But Kingdom of Amalur was definitely more colorful. And like I said, I mean, it's been quite a few years since I played it, so I can't remember the gist. And there's just a lot to do. Again, I think this was really meant to be an MMO because there's a lot of things to do in this game, a lot of quests and a lot of baddies to kill. Ultimately, you have a big baddie. I never got a chance to finish it because my PS3 conked out. And I just haven't got a time to replace the hard drive. And I do have it on PC, but I haven't played it as much on the PC as I have on the PS3. But I'm really happy that THQ is going to take this up because, for me, I need a new IP to latch onto. The Witcher series is now over. The trilogy's done. They're really not planning another full-blown Witcher game. In the at least in the style of the other three. And in my opinion, Bethesda kind of, crapped on the whole Elder Scrolls since after Morrowind, in my opinion. So I've been kind of adrift. And then Amalur, I was really getting into. And then when is it called 38 Studio or 36 Studio? Had a weird name.
It was something like that. Yeah.
When they went belly up, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Come on. Just when I got into this and you guys go belly up. No, you're not allowed to do that. So,
yes. So
THQ, I know them as a publisher. I never knew them to actually make a game. I know they released several of the Civilization games, but that was a different company. The Firaxis was doing that.
Keep in mind, this is Nordic THQ or THQ Nordic or Nordic.
Yeah, I don't know if there's I wasn't sure if there's like a distinction or in that or not. But go ahead.
Nordic had bought out THQ because THQ, they closed their studios down, and then Nordic bought them up, and then slowly but surely they've been going through and just picking out.
You think then it would be Nordic THQ and not THQ Nordic?
It might be Nordic THQ. I might have just written it down wrong. It's I know that might be a screw up on my part. So please don't. No,
I'm looking at the articles. It's THQ Nordic, which I think it's kind of weird, but okay, whatever. And maybe
whatever. Yeah.
Whatever.
But still, this is if anyone out there who's listening, if you haven't played it and you're looking for a pretty in depth, it looks pretty good. It's not awful looking even by today's standards.
No, it still plays. If you can handle, if you think like World of Warcraft's graphics is good, then this is just fine. You're not going to get you're not going to get the trees bending in the wind or anything like those kind of graphics, but it's very colorful. And I think you agree with that too, Ron. And the gameplay, the combat mechanics is very fluid, very easy to get into, pick up and play. And you got your magic trope, your warrior trope, and your thief trope, and you can mix the three archetypes together and make a hybrid class. I like making a warrior mage hybrid class. That's been my favorite with that game. But it's. You're not picking up cups from the table like you would in an Elder Scrolls game, but it's very large in depth. The lore is deep and written into the game. The game is written the dialogue is written with the assumption that you already live in this world and you just know it, which is great. I like that. They did that with Pillars of Eternity, where you just thrown right into the world. You're on your own. You got to figure it out on your own. And I like that. Mm-hmm. That's my cup of tea. I'm, old school role player guy. So yay, THQ.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So definitely, good single player RPG with a very large, fantasy driven world. Like, definitely look it up. It's worth it.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed that they, do more with this particular IP.
Yeah.
But, going off of the whole, old IP maybe making a resurgence or, resurfacing. There was something that was pretty cool. At least I think it's pretty damn cool. A couple of weeks back. So on the Switch, and I'm a big fan of the Switch. I love the damn thing. Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. I didn't know.
No. I usually, closet fan.
Yeah.
So Squaresoft, they released Final Fantasy 15, the mobile version on the Switch.
Wait, what?
Which anyone, if you haven't played
mobile version?
Shit. How do I word this? Basically, it's Final Fantasy 15, just kind of with some fat trimmed off of it, I guess would be the best way to word it.
So we're talking sprites, because I can't imagine. I can barely push 15 on my computer, and you're going to put it on the Switch.
It's the mobile version, so it's not going to be as graphically intense as what the console or PC version of it is. It's done like, instead of having like the actual realistic looking characters, they're chibi style.
Okay, all right. So like almost like a Final Fantasy 7 style. Ish.
Ish, I guess. If you want to like, just to kind of like picture wise what it looks like, go with like Final Fantasy 2 and 4 and 5 that came out on the 3DS. That style.
Okay.
And basically the game, it goes through just the main story. So there's side missions you can do, but all of the side quests that you can do in the actual PS4, Xbox One, PC. So no joyrides in the car. What's that?
No joyrides in the car.
No joyrides in the car.
Oh, worst game ever. Sorry. Worst port ever.
Right? So that came out, and like they also they announced they're doing a couple of other things. They're bringing Final Fantasy 7 over to the Switch, which makes me very happy. And ultimately one of these titles that I haven't played in a long time, that I'm very excited is getting re-released, is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. A redux of it is coming next year, I believe. And just in case anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles originally came out on the Nintendo GameCube. Okay. Back in the era of like the Nintendo DS and Nintendo SP. It was, so you played the game using your, you hooked up your Nintendo, your Nintendo SP, not DS. Sorry. Mm-hmm. You hooked up your Nintendo SP. There was like this, when you bought the game, it came with this cord that you could plug into, put the port into the, the system, and then it would plug into your Game Boy, and you would play it using the Game Boy, and the screen on your your SP would give you information that you could use in the game. And it was up to 4 players, and one person would be able to have like, if you was you and I, Mike, like you would have the map on your screen, and you could be like, all right, we go over here, and we, you would be able to navigate through this, all the dungeons, if you will, or, where you go through the game.
Right.
And then the other 3 people, I'm awful. Everyone had a specific role.
Okay.
And my memory is a little bit fuzzy on what the other roles were. The map one is what really sticks out right now. Ultimately, it was a very fun Final Fantasy. You know, if you had a couple of friends you wanted to sit down and play a game with, like this was perfect.
Okay.
You could play, if you were playing by yourself, you could just use your controller and play that way and just go through the menus. But ultimately, they announced they're doing a redux of this, and it's coming out on, I believe it's coming out on everything, which makes me very happy because
that seems to be Square's thing right now. If it's going to be released, it's released on everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, Squaresoft likes money, and I mean, who doesn't? But this is a company with some really good titles under their belts, and yeah, they're going to re-release them. They need all the money that they can get so they can finish Final Fantasy VII. For Christ's sakes, I want this game before I die. But they did announce that a redux for Crystal Chronicles is coming out, and anyone who had played it back in like the early 2000s knows that, you know, understands my excitement when, you know, this was announced. Anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, look it up. And then you're welcome, because it's a fun game to play with some friends. Hell, it's actually fun to play by yourself, but it's better to play with friends. Yeah. So there was that.
Now, I've never deviated really from the core Final Fantasy series, so I'm not familiar with the side projects that the
side project was?
Yeah, I call it a side project, but
some of my most favorite titles that they've done, like under the Final Fantasy belt, were their side project ones. Like, I honestly, like, if you know, like Crystal Chronicles is a lot of fun to play with some friends, but if you really want a good like tactical RPG game to play, play Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah,
like that game took me forever to beat, just because I was bad at it at a very young age, and I just couldn't beat this one boss. But nonetheless, it was a very good.
We always had that one when we were a kid.
Oh yeah, right.
Yep.
That was my water temple when I was younger. Before I got my hands on the water temple. So yes, there was that. But you know, kind of going off the Nintendo thing here.
Yeah.
Mike, you wanna fill us in on this little piece of WTF news?
Yeah. So if anybody's lurked on YouTube long enough, especially 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you probably came across some videos of people in Japan basically go-karting through the streets of Tokyo dressed up as Mario characters. And laughs were had. I always thought those were pretty neat, but apparently Nintendo never thought they were funny, and they sued these people in Tokyo District Court. The group was called Maricar, 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 and they would do is they lend out cosplays, dresses, and outfits to be Nintendo characters, and he would just drive go-karts around. And the court has ruled that in Nintendo's favor, and the company has to cough up 10 million yen, or about $122,000 in US, and put an end to it. So I don't know. I'm assuming. I believe actually that Japan is a lot stricter with copyrights than they are in the United States, because I don't think Nintendo could get away with that here. As long as they're not saying they're Nintendo characters, or B, saying that Nintendo has this is not acknowledging that Nintendo has not authorized this kind of event. But in Japan, I guess that doesn't count. So, so those are over. Nintendo laid down the ban hammer, and the days of seeing these Mario Karters going down the streets of Tokyo or anywhere else in Japan is over.
Yeah, and
thank you, Nintendo.
Yeah, right. I mean, this just goes to show you on how, like, and don't get me wrong, I like Nintendo, but this just goes to show you on how ridiculous they can be sometimes when it comes to their IPs. Like, this isn't the first case that we've heard where they do something that makes you raise an eyebrow and go like, why?
I mean,
and I highly doubt it's going to be the last where they do something like this.
Look, I believe in support of companies' right to support their properties. I mean, it's their livelihood, essentially. Because, like I support the little guy with his like, I hate for somebody to steal Stardew Valley from the guy who made that game. So, like they have a right to defend themselves. And generally speaking, you always have to have a firm hand, because once you let it slip a little bit, then, give an inch and take a mile, you lose it forever. So I understand that. But on the other hand, I'm sure there could have been some way that they could have negotiated some sort of something like, okay, we'll permit you to do this, but you need to give us a royalty fee, stuff like that, and just we'll make it legit. And this way, the customers are happy that they actually get their drive as Princess Peach or Toadstool, however you want to say it, and go down the streets in a pink little go-kart. And then when she goes home, she gets to fire up a copy of Mario Kart on her Switch, because I'm sure by now all the Super Nintendo games are emulated on the Switch.
I wish. If it's done, it's not. It's not.
Nintendo, you're wasting your time on this, and you're not putting the Super Nintendo games on the Switch. What the hell?
Yeah, that's where I have my fingers crossed. I have a bunch of Nintendo titles that
you look at a couple of years ago, the AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake. That was a project. That was a one-man project who recreate the Metroid 2 game in a Metroid Zero style gameplay. And
I remember that one. Yeah.
And Nintendo ignored it for years. It was in development. There was blogs, there's videos of it. This guy was clearly making this game, clearly using the Metroid brand, clearly using Samus, clearly using copyrighted material to make this game. And they didn't shut him down until a day after he released this game. 24 hours on the internet is a lifetime. There is the floodgates have opened. This game is out there, and it's not hard to find a Google Drive somewhere or a torrent that has this game. I have that game. Okay. Why Nintendo waited a day after to kill it and then release their own version of Metroid 2 remake, which is night and day from what this other game is. And honestly, I think the fan remake is actually better. Personal opinion. But because it's got that, it's the 2-dimensional sprite look, which I prefer in a Metroid game. Nintendo, I love you, but I have to hate you too.
Again, like I said, they do some weird things, but hey, it's not going to be the first time, and it's definitely not going to be the last. No.
But, and we'll hopefully one day we'll make a livelihood of talking about Nintendo lawsuits.
Yeah, right. But so another, I have to say, I think it's kind of cool, but also really weird, I guess. I'm not sure how I feel about it. So Google and Ubisoft, kind of sort of team up ish for Google's Project Stream, where basically you can stream. Well, right now, I believe the only one that you can do it with is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Right.
You can stream it through Google Chrome and play this through your web browser. And apparently, in what little bit I was able to find on it, actually runs pretty well, I guess. But also, these are, how do I word this? It runs well for people who are allowed to play it. The average Joe.
Right.
I don't know how well that's going to, if I tried to fire it up and play, play Odyssey through my internet connection and play through that way. I don't know how well it's going to run, but
they're asking for 25 megabits per second, which is in a lot of areas in the United States is not unreasonable. There are a lot of rural areas that it's either non-existent or very expensive because you have a monopoly, like where I live. The other issue is that they need very low latency, about 40 milliseconds, which that could actually be more of a problem. So you can have the bandwidth, But if you're in Timbuktu with that bandwidth, you're still going to have high latency. And so it's still not going to work out, because you might stream a pretty picture, but if it takes 2 seconds for the character to jump when you hit the button, there's no gameplay there anymore. You're better off with some sort of turn-based gameplay where you can have that delay and still have a functioning game. But a game like Assassin's Creed, that you got to live in a major metropolitan city for this to really work.
And one of the things that I'm curious about is like how this is going to work for people with people with crappy rigs. Put it that way. If you've got yourself a budget machine that can play like a couple of games, but nothing fancy.
If it's streaming, you don't need a fancy machine. I mean, look at this. Look at the Steam Link. The Steam Link is basically a little tiny streaming box. There's no fan on it. I think it has a little, an ARM chip in it, and all it's doing is taking, decompressing the compressed video output over the network from your computer, which is doing all the labor, and shooting it to the Steam Link, and then the Steam Link just pops it on the screen. It's the only thing it's doing is decoding decoding the video, and taking your inputs and sending it back to the computer. So you don't need a big rig to do this. The graphics and everything like that is being done on who's ever got the server, whether it's Ubisoft or Google, I don't know. But their servers are doing all the hard work. They're the ones that's got all the, they're the ones blowing all the heat. You can have a crappy little Dell machine from probably 10 years ago, and it will still work as long as you have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
All right.
So, all right. I mean, if that's how that's going to work, that's kind of cool, but I'm not too big, because again, like, to go back on the Switch, I know like in Japan, Capcom's been testing out like where you can stream games. Look, you can play Resident Evil 7 on your Switch. Like that game, I don't think could fit on one of the little cartridges. I mean, I don't know basically you can play games like that through their servers and stream them onto your Switch. And like, all right, that's cool and all, but I'm not. I've always been a fan of give me the actual cartridge. Right. I don't even like downloading games on my console. I'd rather. I
prefer having the box myself, and the box and the manual to read when you're sitting on the toilet after trying to play the game for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's I'm old school, but that's the way I like it.
Yeah, yeah. So, and there's also there was something else you had here, Mike, that I think I need your little input on here.
Yeah. Look, I am the bearer of great news, because here's another lawsuit I get to talk about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're really a fan. I'm kind of a fan. I'm not. You won't see me with a uniform going to a convention. But I do enjoy Star Trek Next Generation. It's just a fun show in its own right. And there's a lot of people who love that show too. And somebody out there had the great idea to take the Enterprise D in the Next Generation show and recreate it in the Unreal Engine and be able to walk through it with a VR headset, like an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive, and be able to go through stem to stern, the entire ship, the way it's supposed to be. And look, if you true Trekkie fans are anal about detail, and I'm sure this recreation is 100% lore accurate, because otherwise the man would be drawn and quartered. I don't know the person's real name. He's from Britain. He goes by the inner name, and I know I'm going to screw this up. It's a Scrognog. Scrognog got sued by CBS. CBS sent him a cease and desist letter, claiming copyright infringement for this non-for-profit, on his free time, fan recreation of the Star Trek Enterprise. once again, CBS, you just know how to, poop on all your fans, and you're wondering why Star Trek Discovery is a flop.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, they just don't know what they don't, say what you want about George Lucas. He had the right idea. If fans want to make like fan films and stuff like that and fan creations, as long as they're not really making money from it, his policy was let them. He was all for about creativity.
It's only helping you.
This is why you have tons and tons of Star Wars fan films. But when it comes to Star Trek fan films or fan creations of any sort, it's a desert. And I mean, the CBS, they made a policy. They did draw up a policy for fan films, but it's so strong arm. You can't have sequels. You can't use characters from the original shows. You can't bring actors or anyone who worked on the any of the shows on your show. So even like an extra, you can't bring them in. It's just absolutely insane. And so when this came out, at first I was like, I was not surprised. But on the other hand, I was kind of disappointed because if I ever did get an Oculus Rift, this definitely would have been one of the first things I would have had on, because I would have loved to go through, the Enterprise D, firsthand. I mean, that'd be great. It'd be like, for a Star Wars fan to go through the Millennium Falcon in a VR environment, or even the bridge of a Star Destroyer. That'd be so super neat, right? So I'm for, stuff like this. This guy did it on his own free time, his own sweat and blood. He did not say this, he didn't say he owned the copyright to this or anything. He clearly said this was CBS Paramount thing. He doesn't own anything about this. This is purely their thing. This is just for the fans. And no, you can't have that. So I'm sure, like everything on the internet, you could probably find this on some Google Drive. You look hard enough, you could still probably find this somewhere. But it's just like,
it's ridiculous.
The project is called Stage 9, by the way. So you can try to look it up that way. But look, if you can find it, download it. I have no qualms about saying that. This is completely stupid. Again, CBS, why are you doing stuff like this? You have a fan base. People want or salivating for something. This does not hurt you in any way. If anything, it just makes people want your product more, want to watch your shows, want to, show up at the conventions and talk to the same actors that have been doing these conventions for God knows how many years already. You're screwing up.
Yeah.
Stop it.
This
is why shows like The Orville have been created, because you are screwing up. That's a fun show, by the
way. Speaking of, I guess, screwing up, and also probably another topic on the kind of like a WTF, what are you doing here?
We had such a good opening, and now we're just like, it's one after the other.
Yeah, I know, right? So there's a little something going on with CDProjekt Red right now. They're currently or who the hell knows what's going on with that right now. But they are, or currently still, or whatever, they're being sued by the writer for the Witcher series. I don't remember his first name, but it's Sapkowski is his last name. He's suing them for roughly about 16 million in royalties. I think it's 16 million in royalties.
16.1.
16.1. Okay.
I'm assuming that's US American freedom dollars.
Yeah. Who the hell knows? Basically, when the contracts were written up for between him and CDProjekt Red, when they wanted to make the first Witcher game, CDProjekt Red offered him I believe they offered him a percentage of the sales, and he opted out of that to just take his initial pay of like, all right, give me this much money, and then we'll call it even. which I believe equated to like roughly like $8,000 or $9,000 American. He's suing because he's basically trying to say that he wants more. He wants more.
Like a Disney princess.
Pretty much. This is basically this is an old man, which he is. He's an old man who didn't believe that, video games were it was going to take off. And so he was just like, all right, I'll take this money. And then, you're not going to get anything on this because, games are dumb and nobody plays games. And,
right.
Little did he know that this was going to become a wildly popular series that would really, really, really help his books. I know he was a popular writer. He was a popular author.
Right.
Prior to these games coming out or anything like that. But,
his first novel was released in 93, but it was only in Polish and didn't get an English translation until the first Witcher game was released in 2007. Yeah. So it helped his sales. I don't, obviously, again, different country, so different laws, contract laws. But in my world anyway, if you sign the contract, that's it. So if you want to renegotiate it, you have to talk to the person that you signed it with, and both parties have to agree to a new contract. But obviously, he signed it. CDProjekt Red has every right to say, no, we're not giving you any money because you signed it this way, because they're going to lose a lot of money if they give it to him. Excuse me. And this kind of brings up the whole idea. This reminds me of what happened with the gentleman who played Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy, and his name escapes me for a brief moment, but I think I'll be able to find out who is the actual David Prowse. Yes. David Prowse wore the original suit in the original trilogy, and David Prowse was the only actor, my understanding, to not get a cut of the royalty. He got this lump sum. And so when Star Wars ended up being this big deal, imagine that, he started crying that he wanted a cut. And of course, George Lucas told him, pound dirt. You signed it the way you signed it. You get a flat rate and that's it. And there's been a lot of animosity between David and George because Dave feels he got cheated. And as much as I feel like, he kind of did, he did it to himself. I mean, that's, you don't, obviously hindsight's always 20/20. But you reap what you sow. He made the decision and he was told, look, if this made money, you could make more if you take the cut. But if it doesn't make much money, then if you take the lump sum, that would be more. And he ended up taking the lump sum. So, like I said, I feel bad for him, and I feel bad for, I'm not trying, I'm Czech, not Polish. I'm not good about to try to pronounce his first name, but Sapakowski, he signed the contract he signed, and if all he in my world of all he could do is go to CDProjekt Red and say, look, is there some way we can work something out? I feel like I could, I deserve more for what you're making from my work, and try to do it, that way. But I'm either he tried and they obviously failed.
Try to do something,
and they're just going to go to court. And I have no idea how this would play out. It's a different court system. Poland's going to do what Poland wants to do. This is, this is definitely going to put a hamper on any ideas of a Witcher 4 for sure. I think.
Probably. I
mean, they're going to work. They're going to work on Cyberpunk, and that's going to take up their time. And I know recently they're talking. Yeah. They have a new Witcher game being released, which is like a third-person isometric role-playing game, which is interesting. I haven't really looked really deep into it. But I would like to see a Witcher 4, if not with Geralt, then maybe continue the story with Ciri, or maybe some sort of offshoot, maybe a story about Vesemir would be pretty awesome. Be the old man, or maybe even Lambert. Lambert's a lot of fun. I love to play Lambert. What a smart ass he is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's where we keep the fingers crossed, and hopefully, like. I agree. Give credit where it's due and everything, but here's a guy who, like what you said, you reap what you sow. This is a guy that was very much against games, didn't like them, wanted nothing to do with them.
That's what you got,
and never expected it to get as popular as it did.
Well, if you look back, when he signed it, that was the 2000s. I mean. Very few games had a real strong narrative back then. I mean, you had Black Isle Studios, which became Obsidian and whatnot. They had like Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment, but that was more the exception, not the norm. A lot of games back then the shooters were a dime a dozen at the time, right? And the adventure games were kind of dying out. The whole point and click adventure games were dying out, and first person shooters were taking over, at least on the PC end. I don't consoles.
We're a little bit of a different beast.
Yeah. Well, 2000s. Yeah, that's when you had Final Fantasy VII, and again, the story driven games were the exception, not the norm. Now, I mean, every game has to be like a cinematic masterpiece, and there's very little gameplay anymore. Detroit. So yeah. I hope there's some reconciliation. I don't want to see bad blood between the two.
I would like to think that they can work.
I like to see him try to make either more novels, and I hope he didn't give away too much in terms of the other projects that are going on with Witcher, like with a TV show and stuff like that. I mean, I know there was a Polish TV series which was absolutely a disaster. I tried to watch it and I was like, no, this is terrible. Even from reading the books, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to be cool on this.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that's how it works. I mean, it works out that way, but who the hell knows? But this is it seems to be like all that we have for news-wise. Today. There was a little bit more, but there was some old stuff on there that we had to trim off because it was just too long.
Obviously there's some stuff we would love to talk about. We're going to have to dedicate a whole episode for sure.
Yes.
But real quick, is there any games you've been playing lately, or want to make mention about?
Yeah, I was playing I finished it now, but I was playing the Spider-Man game that came out on PS4, which is probably one of the best Spider-Man games to come out since.
I've been hearing a lot of good news about that game.
It's all right. So let me real quick. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything to ruin any of the story for anyone who might listen to this and hasn't finished it. There's one spot.
Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Right. There's one spot that really is like really, really well done. And how do I word this? So I guess really my biggest gripe with the game is, and this isn't, I mean, they've shown them in the trailers. Right. This isn't like, unknown information. But what they did with the Sinister Six, I would have liked it if they would have kind of gone like a Batman route, if you will, where these villains would have kind of had more to them rather than they felt like mini bosses is what it was. With the exception of the one Rhino encounter, which anyone who's been playing it, when you get there, you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about. But yeah, pretty much when you're fighting them as Spider-Man, you're just they feel like mini bosses, and it's kind of a shame because this is the sinister, effing six. Like these guys are, these are big villains here.
Hardcore.
I wish they would have done a little bit more with them. But I mean, all in all, it's a damn good game. It's
Yeah, I've seen
it's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I've seen I've seen a gameplay video where it's the kid who wants to be Spider-Man. And I thought I saw a little bit of that, and I thought, wow, I thought that was pretty neat, and I thought that was because I wasn't big in the comics, but I think there were people who were trying to be Spider-Man, or kids trying to be Spider-Man at one point, but. I thought it was pretty neat that you had somebody else who's trying to be Spider-Man and getting all the credit, and you're trying to fix the situation for sure.
It's definitely it's worth the price of admission. It's worth the play.
There's a game I actually been trying to find time to play other than World of Warcraft, which I'm still spending time on, it's Pathfinder Kingmaker. Paizo finally got around to making a computerized version of their Pathfinder game, and when I first heard about this on Good Old Games, I think it's only on Good Old Games. I don't think it's on Steam. Pretty sure it's only on Good Old Games, and that's where I got it. It's basically Baldur's Gate, but with Pathfinder, and so I did the sacrilegious thing of pre-ordering a digital copy before it came out, because I was like, it's Pathfinder. I love Pathfinder. I don't get to play enough of it. Here's a computerized version of it. Screw it. I love Neverwinter Nights and Pillars of Eternity. This is going to be my game. This is going to be my stick. All right. Everything else is going to be deleted, and this is the only game on my computer. Forever and ever, amen. But just so you know, I did not get like the super ultimate $90 version. I got the base model because I'm not paying for a $90, I'm not paying for a $90 digital copy just so I can have some, digital goodies, like wallpapers. Sorry. But I didn't get a chance to really get into play in it. I'm hoping to do some sort of like a let's play review for this. So I'm hoping to get that out in the future. But overall, I mean, the game, it feels just like playing Pillars of Eternity. I think it's actually the exact same engine. Although I'm a little disappointed, but I shouldn't be surprised about this. It wasn't a direct translation of the Pathfinder system into a computer game, because when I finally got this game installed, I took out some character sheets and I am going to play the character I have had on paper and actually play this character. And you really can't do that. There's a lot of things missing, or either removed or combined for the sake of gameplay. They did the same thing with Neverwinter's, the Neverwinter Nights games, taking the D&D 3 and 3.5 system, and they condensed it and adding things like parry. Here, they condensed quite a few of the skills, which in a way makes sense because it's a computer game and not a in your mind fantasy tabletop game. So things like acrobatics are kind of gone because you don't really have that anyway in a game like that. But I'm kind of still disappointed. Mainly because the character I wanted to do was this druid that is who's likes to cast fire, and she's got this vine as a familiar type creature that's like on her body and will shoot out from her arm to do melee attacks. And I always thought that was I want to play that character finally. And no, you really can't do that in this game. And I'm actually the other disappointment is that the one class I did really want to try, the witch, is not in the Pathfinder game, which I'm very disappointed because that's actually my favorite class to play and to tinker with. Yeah. It's a lot of fun to play a witch. The other thing though, and this kind of struck me odd, and I don't, if you played like, you played like Baldur's games like that, right? Yeah, back in the day. When you're creating a character, generally, what's the first question they ask you about the character? When you're going down the steps of your maker character, what's the first thing you generally have to do?
If memory serves me correct, and like I'm not gonna lie to you, it's been a while since I played like Baldur's Gate or anything like that. There wasn't really any questions. It was, a slider, pick what race. Yeah, pick what race and then what class, and then here's here's the stats. Put numbers into them and whatever you want.
And then,
like,
and then the end is that's when you can do your portrait, make your character with the the hair color and stuff like that, right?
I believe yes.
If I do like the Neverwinter Night thing, you pick your gender and then you pick your race and then you pick your class and then you pick your alignment and then you pick your skills and all that, and then you do the personalization. This one does a little backwards. The first thing you do is you pick your portrait. You don't even pick your race or gender yet. You got to pick your portrait. And although the portraits are very beautiful and well done, there's like 12. It's very few.
Okay.
And you got a game where it has like, I think 7 races. So there's 14 men, women, and then you got all the classes in between. That's, I don't even know what I'm picking, and yet I have to pick a portrait for it. This is not what my character is going to look like, but this is what my character is. I don't know. It kind of threw me back because I want to make my character first, and then I'll, personalize the character. But now you're making a portrait first, and like when I played Neverwinter Nights. You go down the list, you pick your gender, you pick your race, class, and all that. And when you got to the, pick your portrait, it would put up, say, I picked a half orc, the half orcs or male half orcs, the male half orcs would be on the top of the list, because obviously that's the one I'm going to be going, because if I'm playing a half orc, I'm not going to portray myself as a gnome, right? I would think. But Pathfinder, the game doesn't do that. It's all mixed together. You can't do anything about it. And I always thought that's just weird. Let me pick my, pick my character first, and race, gender, class, alignment. And then I can decide, okay, is this character more melee or is it magical? So it should have more claw. This is a sneaky character. There's a portrait with a character with a hood on it, to make it, a sneaky looking character. You don't have that much in terms of pickings, and what they're there don't represent like the kind of character I want to play. And I don't know, that did throw me off. The game pretty much plays like Pillars of Eternity, and it got a lot of dialogue. Combat is pretty much what you expect in a game like that. So, I mean, what I've played of it so far, it's a great game. I just had some high expectations because I was blinded by the desire of the game I want, not the game I'm going to get, which has happened to all of us.
Every single one of us. And I mean, who knows for you? This could be like their stepping point,
right?
For better projects.
I'm sure there was a Resident Evil game that you were so hyped for and had so beautiful thoughts about, and when you finally sat down and played it, it
was garbage. You talking about Resident Evil 6?
You were in denial. Like you it's garbage, but you can't say it's garbage. You will defend this to your dying breath. Yes, fine. Yes, Resident Evil 6. No. I
mean, I'll tell you, Resident Evil 6. Yeah, that one was pretty garbage. Or Operation Raccoon City, which is, I love it. Oh my god, I'll play the hell out of it, but it's garbage. But So I believe that's everything we've got for you guys today. So thanks for listening to the little ramble there at the end and our thoughts on a couple of games that we're playing. Also, believe me when I say that, our next video won't be out, and we'll be out in normal time now.
Give me guys a little while. I'll be having the videos up. Hopefully, by the time you hear this podcast goes up, I'll have the YouTube versions up pretty soon. Time is a precious commodity for me, so I'm at least trying to get the podcast up first.
Yeah. But, as always, thank you for listening. Any questions, comments, all that fun stuff, I mean, I guess, but preferably not. By all means, send them to us at beardedgamemasters@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, rate, leave comments, all that fun stuff. It's always appreciated to help get the name out there. And thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.